The Jonin commander stroked his beard. To be frank, Hokage, becoming a missing nin automatically gets you a death sentence. However, he continued, when he saw the elders ready to protest, and more importantly Naruto closing his eyes in apparent resignation. Since Uchiha Sasuke is the last bearer of the Sharingan that we have under our control, it would be unwise to completely finish it off. Therefore, I suggest that he be kept in a heavy imprisonment for 1 year, and upon his release, be suspended from shinobi duties for 6 months, during which he be subject to psychological sessions to address past trauma and adjust his mental conditioning, because Kami knows the kid needs it. Lastly, upon his resuming of duties, he be put on probation for another 6 months. Silence descended into the office as the elders, excluding Danzo, looked at Shikaku in disbelief. Tsunade seemed to be thinking it through, and Naruto gazed at Shikamaru in his peripheral gaze, finding that Naruto actually paying attention with sharp eyes. Naruto didn't fault his friends if he wanted execution, because he didn't understand Sasuke like Naruto did. After all, pursuing Sasuke did almost cause the death of half of their team. Temari was standing stone-faced, eyes straight. She really didn't know what to think about the entire situation. Deserting your village automatically gets you a death sentence, no matter how important you are. But apparently, the Sharingan was too important to the village to just be finished off. It was perplexing her that just how far Konoha was willing to go for the Uchiha. Naruto was inwardly relieved. He had feared that Sasuke would be executed, as per protocol, and he was ready to defend his friend, but it seemed that there was no need to. In his opinion, 2 years of retirement was a way better than being killed. It was somewhat a burden off his shoulders. Tsunade finally came to a decision. Well, that seems reasonable. I think it's better if we bring it down to 6 months of imprisonment instead of 1 year. Koharu stepped forward. Hokage-sama, in my opinion, even that seems a bit harsh. Perhaps just a 6-month imprisonment followed by a 1 month of prohibition. Surprisingly, Temari was the one who stepped forward against the suggestion. Koharu, the foremost punishment when it comes concerning a missing nin is death, and that goes for every missing nin. The punishment is already a lot more lenient, but by not executing him right away, instead choosing to preserve a bloodline. Do you mean to say that you would speak against execution for another missing nin from Konoha? Or is it just Uchiha Sasuke? The silence from the elder told everyone that Temari had been spot on. As it stands, by giving him this punishment, Hokage is already in the danger of being accused of showing favoritism inside the shinobi forces. The only reason that accusation could be swept aside is that the missing nin in question is an Uchiha, and as such, the last, potentially loyal Sharingan under the village's control. Naruto continued, inwardly pumping a fist at his wife's argument. She sure knew how to put people down. Naruto is correct, Tsunade agreed. Much to the displeasure of the elders, inwardly smirking, she continued. This is the only reason Sasuke Uchiha has not been punished by death. However, by not executing him does not mean the alternate punishment will be light. My punishment stands 6 months of prison, followed by 6 months of suspension, and psychological recovery and conditioning, followed by 6 months of probation. Does anyone have a problem with that? The elders, excluding Danzo, raised their hands. Tsunade rolled her eyes, and her next question was practically dripping with sarcasm. Does anyone else have a problem? When no one raised their hands, Tsunade nodded and turned to the Jonin commander. Sasuke will have finished recovering by the end of next week. Make sure he's immediately transferred to prison after his discharge. Shikaku bowed. As you wish, Tsunade. If we have no further business, this meeting is adjourned. As the elders and Shikaku left, Naruto stayed behind to discuss something private with Tsunade. When everyone had left, he stepped forward. Hokage, can I tell can you tell me when I would be able to visit him? Tsunade's expression turned grim as she looked at him. Sorry, Naruto, but Sasuke is under intensive care right now. You may not know it, but almost every bone in his body was at least cracked, if not broken. I'd say he was extremely lucky that he is in the second level of his transformation. Otherwise, I don't think that his spine would have survived the Rasengan that you crashed into his back. Naruto tried to not show the guilt and horror he was feeling at that. He had given only a moment's thought to the level of damage Sasuke might suffer from the Rasengan. He had guessed that the transformation would protect Sasuke from any severe damage. He had only been meaning to disable him, not cripple him entirely. If it were anyone else, the Rasengan would have grinded the backbone into dust. But otherwise, you should be able to speak with him after 5 days. Naruto released a breath of release. He then bowed to Tsunade and left the office with Temari. Just as they exited the office, they tensed upon hearing the voice behind them. Might I have a moment for you, a moment of your time, Uzumaki? Naruto turned around to see Danzo, the elder staring at him with his expressionless eyes. His eyes drifted downwards to the cane and he inwardly frowned. Who's he trying to fool with the old retired shinobi act? Only people with walking problems need canes. He is not putting any kind of pressure on it like a man who needs it would. Outwardly he nodded and turned to Temari. Go, I'll be right behind you. Temari was about to protest when Naruto gave her a pointed look. She reluctantly nodded and walked away. He turned and faced the elder, the slightest hint of annoyance seeping into his voice. I have several other things to do, Danzo, so please make this quick. Danzo might not admit this to anyone, but the Jinchuriki was impressive in his capacity to act as the clan head. He motioned him. Please follow me to my office. I'll try to make this as quick as I can. They both brisk walked, while Naruto revised everything he had on this man. His father had left a journal in which a practical section had been dedicated entirely to this man. He had written down that Danzo was fiercely loyal to Konoha and an extremist to boot. His father had also said that Danzo was after the seat of Hokage and would do anything to ensure he would become the Hokage. Given its position as the village's Jinchuriki, Naruto guessed that at some point or another, Danzo might have tried to control him. As they arrived into his office, a thought occurred to Naruto that this could potentially turn out to be a very dangerous situation. I'm sure you're curious as to why I brought you here. So he wants to do this that way. Sorry, Danzo, but I plan to end this as quickly as possible. Outwardly, he said, a small part of me is, but let's not waste each other's times. You know how I am, and I know who you are. Not even a twitch of his facial muscle, but his voice held a thin curiosity. You do? Naruto tilted his head. I know what you also are. A raise of an eyebrow this time. Do tell. Naruto refrained from smirking at his next statement. You're the root that supports the tree that is Konoha. Now that brought out some reaction, which Naruto relished. His lone eye widened and his entire posture tensed up. There was no way that Danzo missed the meaning behind his words. The man took a moment to calm himself down and spoke. I see. And who else knows of this? Naruto shrugged and deliberately gave the man a vague answer. I wouldn't know, though I assume there won't be many, since you have gone to some, well, let's say extreme lengths to keep it a secret. Danzo was inwardly frowning at how much Naruto knew about his operation. Keep what a secret, Uzumaki? Naruto gave a thin smile. If you deny its existence, why would you be so interested in it? Danzo sat back on his chair. That was masterfully played by Uzumaki, he mentally applauded. It would be tricky to get out of this corner, Naruto continued. But let's not play around. We both know that the root exists and you're its leader, despite Sandame's order to shut it down. It's your own private army, which no one else can control, and if anyone else acquires this information, They might see it as a rebellion on your front to overthrow the Hokage. Danzo couldn't hide the small flinch. That was a rather bold statement, and he couldn't deny it anymore. He returned, "My operations are always in best interest for the village." "Then I failed to see how you helped when Orochimaru attacked. I didn't see any root operatives during the invasion." Danzo had no reply for that. He had never suspected that someone would ask him this particular question. Perhaps you were hoping that the Sanding would be killed by his former student and would pave the way for you to become Hokage." Danzo narrowed his eyes, even though he was inwardly shocked at the unintentional bullseye that Naruto had hit. "You go too far, Uzumaki. Hiruzen was my old friend, and I would never wish for his death." Naruto exhaled as he leaned back. "If you say so. I think we're done here, Danzo. I must get back to my wife now." "Ah, yes, your wife." That paused Naruto in his seat. He could deal with Danzo's sights upon him, but why would he be interested in Temari? "What about her?" "I was wondering if you could tell me when you were planning to honor the treaty by conceiving an heir." There was a drastic drop in the temperature of the room. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the elder, and Danzo was pretty sure that Uzumaki was intentionally channeling the cold, dangerous parts of his psyche that he inherited from his father. For the first time in the conversation, there was an air of hostility around the young Jonin. "You can wonder all you want, but I don't see how that is any of your business, Danzo. But I will tell you this." Naruto got up from his seat and laid his hand on the table, leaning forward. "Don't peek your nose where it doesn't belong. You cross my path, and I'll make you regret it." Before Danzo could make a retort, Naruto turned and walked out of the office. Danzo had to give it to him. The Jinchuriki may not be very subtle when it comes to politics, but he had enough subtlety to pass by, and he sure knew how to make a statement. Danzo knew that at the rate he was progressing, Uzumaki would easily become the most powerful ninja of the village in 2 to 3 years. Politically, he had the backing of 2 powerful clans, and Danzo could only hope that Uzumaki didn't do anything that would hinder his plans of becoming Hokage. Well played, Uzumaki. But now that between you and I, it will be me who comes out on top. Smash that like button for the next part, comment Q, and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the Discord, check out the Instagram, they'll all both be in the description. Have a great rest of your day.
And today